All right, we are live. Allow me to make sure that StreamYard and YouTube are talking to each other. There we go. All right, it looks like they're talking to each other. So, welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. So, welcome to my channel. Today is Deconversion Hangout, so there's a few more restrictions. You have to be a subscriber for at least 20 minutes to participate in chat. That's to get rid of the drive-by theists that like to come here and mess up our good time. And so I do sometimes feel like maybe if somebody needed help, the 20-minute wait might be a little bit much for them. But I'd rather have the community kind of kept a little bit safer on Thursdays. If you want to talk to me about anything at all, you can always go to Tuesdays and talk to me. So there's a goal in the chat. We're about 5 super chats away from a hat reveal on Saturday. That's why I would post the Saturday stuff earlier, but there's some unknowns before I get there. So there's that. So yeah, but let's get a roll call. I think Triple E was here first. Yeah, he was. Fortunately, unfortunately the emojis don't always show up. So, but I'll put one up here to acknowledge it. Fred's here. Katie was here. Good to see you. Let's see. Oh, Cranky is here. That's good. Anne Maria's here. Yeah, I'm well aware, Anne Marie. The beauty of living by Lake Michigan is all the wonderful weather that we have in the western part of the state. But yes, I'll probably be in the store working by the time the storms hit. So, but yes, hey, Lisa's here. Good to see you, Lisa. Appreciate you being here. So this is Deconversion Hangout. I just want to reiterate something for everybody because I was talking with my therapist yesterday. I get my therapy sessions twice a month, and yesterday was one of them. And when it comes to therapy, there's a stigma, I think, sometimes to it. And I want to make sure that everybody is well aware of that. Because it took me a little bit after I deconverted to kind of warm up to the idea of therapy. It's why, though, I post the link to Recovering from Religion in my stuff, because that's always an option for you if you are a person that's really struggling with something like some sort of religious trauma or some trauma in general that's connected, say, with the church or some other religious organization. They're a good resource to use that. So make sure that you avail yourself of that. Don't get caught up in I'm tough and I need all that stuff. Therapy is definitely one of the best ways to go when you're dealing with religious trauma and things like that. So, and for me, the added support early on of the Clergy Project. If you're a clergy member, they're a good resource. You just have to be an atheist to utilize them. So make sure you're utilizing those resources. But as far as any issue I have mostly these days, it's usually with family. So for those of you that don't know, my family is getting together for a vacation in July. So there will be a week where I won't live stream because I'll be gone. I'm literally unplugging for that one. So you do, I think it's mid-July, so I will be over that. So are you finally getting over the angry atheist phase? Lisa, I'm going to tell you something. It's one of the most liberating times to get over being angry about it. It starts to free your emotions up to love and care for things instead of just being angry about what happened all the time. I understand the necessity of the angry atheist phase because it's coming out of your faith is very much like mourning. It's very much like grief, and so you have to go through that angry phase because that's a natural part of grief. And so, but once you get past it, it's really, really good because then you go, okay, what can I take all this emotional energy that I've been using to be angry about it? What can I do positive about it? I think that's why I started this channel, because I got off the angry atheist phase and I started moving towards what can I do positively to impact things. I mean, if you're angry all the time, it really clouds your judgment sometimes. So, yeah, it gets to a point where, your deconversion starts to become, okay, acceptance. Okay, I accept the reality that is. And so I'm kind of actually excited for you, Lisa, because it's a good time for your life to get past the angry part and start getting to the more, okay, what can I love? What can I care about? Phase without religion. And I think that's an important phase of your life and a very liberating one. And I think you're going to find much more enjoyable. So I encourage you. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Angry atheism is a part of the process once you come out of religion. But yes, yeah, I still get angry at that too. People that try to throw religion down my throat. Although now I don't know. I don't know if it angers me so much as I kind of like, I wait like fangs nibbling on some vegetables for a minute and saying, okay, do I really want to deep dive this and stink my fangs into this one kind of thing? See, I was angry that their religion led one family member to treat others rather badly. I guess the damage religion doctrine does still makes me angry. Yes. I'm doing some research for a video on that I may release. Uh, Last time we had our good friend Daniel show up, and he tried to make it, like religion does good and doesn't do any harm. And I mean, I can sit there and talk wars and inquisitions all day long, but what is the daily damage that religion does? And one of them is to reinforce tribalism to the point where you will disown family members. Like we brought up the issue of Jesus, talking about hating your family. And so there's that. And so there's a lot of what I would call the daily damage of religion that I want to talk about at some point. So, yeah. I'm going to mention that I felt like I was grieving about Jesus, him not actually being real as depicted in the Bible. Sometimes I get hit with a flood of grief and I choke on my words sometimes. That's normal. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't have those feelings. I had them too. I've said it before. Deconversion is very much like grief. You've lost something very essentially a part of your life for a long time that you thought was very real. For those of you that, imagine Jesus or some other religious entity as your friend, yeah, you've lost a friend, because all of a sudden you realize rationally that relationship doesn't exist. And you've basically been having a relationship with something that's not there. And I think that's the issue with most people deconverting is getting through the grief of it. It is very, very much like grief. I don't know if I have any like cited sources I could give you that would prove that, but I sure felt like when I left the faith, it was very similar to losing my father. Okay, like the emotions certainly were very similar. So that's there, but and Triple E, it's okay to be emotional about this. I've cried many tears about this, so not unusual. So hang in there. Hey, Wolf, good to see you. People understand about needing help get through a divorce, but draw a blank about religious trauma. They are very similar. Yes, I think so. Divorce, having experienced one, that's kind of a grief thing too. I think when we get past certain relationships and they go out of our life, there's there's an adjustment, and anger is a part of that. Disbelief at first is part of it. But that doesn't usually last long once you start getting into it. But then there's the angry about the whole thing. Why didn't it work out? Same for religion. Same for somebody dying. I'm mad about this because it's a big change in my life that I don't want necessarily. And then you get into acceptance and adjustment, and those are the two longest things. I'm very actually, I was glad to see Lisa. I know she's going through a lot of stuff uh, outside of the whole faith issue too, but I'm glad she's getting past the angry, because that means you're making progress and you can start adjusting in truth. And I'm very happy for her. But yeah, a lot of people get stuck in this phase in deconversion where they just don't. It's an issue for all of us deconverting, but when people are outside of it watching somebody deconvert, you also need to realize that they're going through some stuff. Like when people come here for counsel, it's like I'm trying to be very empathic in the sense that I want to make sure that I'm hitting their needs, because I know that they're going through stuff. So it's very much like having an unfaithful partner. It can be brutal. That definitely feels like I've lost a friend when I think about it. My remaining emotional attachment, it scares me. I just try to think it through, but I'm stubborn, I guess. Yeah, definitely. Indoctrination is what keeps you emotionally attached. That's why if if religion had any good rational reasons for it, it wouldn't have to indoctrinate, but it has to indoctrinate with emotional attachment. It's one of those things that I've found hard for me, okay, because a lot of the emotional attachments in my life, my marriage was an emotional attachment that I had a lot to do with religion. My A lot of my relationship with my kids, because they were all pastors' kids when they were growing up, and when they left the house, they were still pastors' kids. So it's like now they're not, and their dad is not any of that. Okay, and I think for them, there's a little bit of grief going on because it's a big change for them. And I'm trying to be, when you're deconverting, you need to realize there's some emotions going on the other side of people that might still be in the faith, and you have to be sensitive to that. Because if you're not going to, the doors of relationship will close fairly, fairly quickly. I've seen it too many times now. So, emotions are necessary. It motivates us. It keeps us going, but it also you need to realize that there's a lot of things going on around you too. So there's that. Humans are emotional animals, and for a reason are fairly new to the race. You invest massively in the idea and find it appropriately untrue. Grief is unavoidable. Yes, yes, or anger. Yes, yeah. It's the emotional nature of the thing that keeps us going. And it's what I deconvert mostly from. I don't have the I don't have the emotional anger like I used to about things. Although the other day I got mad remembering a situation that happened in my last church at the end, and so there's still some emotional attachment and trauma to the whole thing. Even now, I mean, I'm like, it's going to be, I don't know, 10 years since I left Christianity and 7 years since I left the church very soon. In fact, I wanted to look that up. Yeah, that's a couple Tuesdays from now on the 27th. There's a lot of significant things that happened on May 27th in different years for me personally. And so as I draw closer to that, those memories come back up, and the anger about some of it, the grief about it, the brokenheartedness that I have about some of it is still there. It's still, this is why some of us need deconversion hangouts. Okay, we need to talk, because if we don't, that boils over and that can affect other things. And, this is a time of year that's very rough for me, especially the end of May. And I have a tendency then to talk about it more and that's actually a positive thing. So there's that. Let's see. When I get angry, I try to direct my anger toward the people who wrote it and knew they were lying, or I get angry at Yahweh, who I know. Yeah, I mean, after a while, rationally, I just don't get angry at Yahweh. I just find him a despicable character in fiction, which pisses theists off and makes them angry. But I don't know. I guess I'm past the angry at fictional characters and authors phase. I guess my anger is directed at when people say religion doesn't do any harm, and I'm like, are you paying attention at all? Okay, like last stream, I'm like, seriously, you want to tell me that Christianity hasn't done anything wrong? Nothing wrong. Okay. All right. Hey, Earl. Good to see you. Yeah, I updated my Facebook page with your art, so kind of glad to do that. I've been meaning to do that for a while, so I'm kind of in this organizational clean up my apartment, clean up my car phase. So there's that. Um, eh, yeah. Yeah. New tattoo. Okay. Probably rabbit oriented, correct? I'm assuming a lot there. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I took care of more money in one and made it my header, and then I finally updated the symbol, the rabbit symbol that appears in the corner as the watermark. I put that in there, so now my channel is my Facebook page is truly unique for the Rabyd Atheist. So the one background image I'd had up there since I started the thing, it's a picture I took in my old apartment a long time ago. It's well due for an update. So the other part was just a generic atheist symbol. Now it's kind of has its own uniqueness. So, and I don't go there too much other than to post memes and communicate directly with the crew. But so, yeah. So let's see. Trying to think of anything else me and my therapist went around about for deconversion. Uh, Having the conversations with your family members. I haven't really had to do that much, um, but like I've got this vacation coming up in July with my family. It's the first time that all three of my kids, the grandkids, me, my ex, and everybody will be together probably since COVID. I want to say since before COVID. Oh, wait a minute. No, we did something summer of 22. So we had everybody together. It doesn't happen any often anymore because part of the family lives in New York and the other part lives in Michigan. So it's kind of hard to get everybody together. Yeah. Oh, octopus. Okay, cuttlefish. Yeah, I mean, I do understand the desire for tattoos, though, Fred. I mean, I've had that on my bucket list now for probably 10 years. I don't have one. A tattoo artist would look at me and go, "Oh wow, a white boy with a great canvas and doesn't have anything on the canvas." I'm sure that they would, if I had no monetary limits, they would just go gaga over that. So, but yeah, I don't. I've thought about doing it simply to do it and cross it off my list. So, um, I don't know, we'll see. I usually have better things. I won't say better things, but other things to spend my money on. So, um, yeah, let's see. Yeah. If he existed, he would be the biggest cosmic bully with no value towards whom he disgusts me. Yes, he does. Let's be number 10. I have 17 piercings. I'm perforating because I have my unfinished canvas. Yeah. Not for you, but not for. Yeah, the That does bring up some things for deconverted people. Some of the things that we do after we deconvert, it's like I was part of a religion that very much was against tattoos and piercings, other than girls getting them in their ears, in the right spot in their ears. Um, so I grew up a long time with the religious notion that if you got an earring as a guy, you were gay. So there was this whole stigma about body piercings and tattoos, and the Pentecostals, some of them back in the day, used to take the whole getting tattoos in the Old Testament being against the law. That means God doesn't like it, so we're not going to do it either. The holiness standards were still very much there. And so when I shifted churches from Pentecost to congregational, I kind of shifted my attitudes a lot of that back then, but it's still there. Like I know some people still struggle with the idea of, oh, it's okay to do this. I'm not going to hell for it. So I think some people just after they deconvert, they just like they go get a tattoo, or they do something that their old religion wouldn't allow them to do. It's kind of a deconversion thing where you just like push the limits. So, hey, Evan, good to see you. Your dad rationalized as by explaining to me that me being on a journey, the adults in the family haven't really acknowledged my disbelief. My younger son only called me an atheist as a joke. Um, yeah, but see, the thing is, Triple E, they've been taught that, and you got to remember what it was like when you were them. I mean, I do that with my family a lot too. Like I realize that I was where they're at, 15, 20 years ago, and I knew how that thinking worked. And so it helps me deal with them because I kind of look at them as somebody that they haven't moved along in their thinking yet, and that they're in the same position I was where they could move along with their thinking. They could change their mind about it. Every time you're holding, is your life going bad right now? That would make me very concerned, Earl. So there's that. But yeah. Have tats. Never tried to stop them. They're grown-ups. Still not sure if you want to. So warming up to the idea. Hey, Henry Mars. How you doing? Let's see. If I ever got a tattoo, I'd want the Tower of Babel on the back of my hand. It's a symbol of resistance. But I probably won't. I might not want to be reminded about Bible later in life. Yeah, I see. That's what I struggle with is what's worthy of a tattoo on my body. So, and I also have a tendency because of that try to stay in shape because I don't. I've seen some of these tattoos on some of these people later in life, and it's like, yeah, that probably was pretty cool when you were 18 years old, and all of that was high and tight. Now it's not so look good. I always remember joking with one of my friends she was a girl, she got a tattoo of like a strawberry on her navel, and she's had 4 kids since. It doesn't look like a strawberry anymore. So, and she laughs about it too, so it's okay. Uh, uh, yes. Yeah, tattooing and piercing is socially acceptable, so morally more socially acceptable. So, yes, better than actually doing some self harm. Yes, I get that. So, uh, yeah, if you regret it later, you're still stuck with it. They can be removed. It's just very expensive and very painful in some cases, depending on where they're at. Tats when you're happy and piercings when you're sad. Okay, cool. All right. So if I hear you're getting a new piercing, that's when I should be alarmed, huh, Earl? Okay. Yeah, I think that's the key. Don't be angry at your family. Understand that they're brainwashed just like you were, and so you have to approach them that way. They can make life difficult for you. Trust me. If Martin was here and a few others, I haven't seen Martin yet. He might be here lurking. I don't know, but yeah, it's for some people how they were treated after they left the faith is a traumatic experience. So yes, I get that part. but I also realize my family still believes all this stuff because they have an emotional attachment to it, and until they get over that, so there's that. So yeah, I mean, if see that's the thing, Earl. If I started getting tattoos, I'd probably not stop because it'd be like telling my story and using my body as a canvas. But I don't know. I've never warmed up to the idea of actually going and doing it. So I've got a completely blank canvas here. So who knows? And I'm happy we are having zero tats or piercings. Yes. Uh, I even know the answer to this one. She could. Yeah, they do have upkeep. Like you do have to get them touched up for color. There's stuff that I've seen in the pharmacy section when I've done mods there about tattoos and maintenance of tattoos uh, from certain points of view. So yes, they do have some. Yeah, being family doesn't give the others right to tell you what you are. I feel the same way about God. Might does not make right correct. And I think sometimes people do use their family against you and their family position against you. But I think that the thing about being an atheist and the real problem my family has with dealing with me is as a former minister, they know flat out, like my kids flat out know that I know the Bible probably better than they do. I know my religion better than they do. I have, they're the ones that learned all the stuff from me, okay, as kids. And now I'm sure it goes through their brain, well, why would dad walk away from that? Okay, why would, he gave all these great reasons that we're still holding on to keep our faith, but they don't work for him anymore. And I wonder if they ever bother, um, doing some of that. Minimalist, black outline, similar. Yeah. Somebody asked me if I ever got one, what I would do. I love the, of course, obviously, I love the Viking art style. That style with the two ravens behind me up there. That's probably what I would do for every tattoo I did. Um, Dark black in spots, but then that kind of scroll work, vine work. So I kind of love that stuff. Okay, not getting sunburned. Yeah, so making sure you're safe in the sun. Got to be angry at someone. Don't take my rage away. Anger is a catalyst for achievement. I get it. I do. I get angry too, but it's not always the best emotion to have. You can be motivated without being angry. Hey, Daly, how's the damn show doing these days? You're on too early for me. I'm thinking about going to bed. So yeah, okay. So it's a sunburn thing. See, I learned something today, Earl. So, but I know like some people have been sunburned, so they have to go get a touch up or something else. So um, I know after the tattoo is done, there's some sort of like maintenance for it to keep it doing with. So um, when I told my atheist uncle I felt the Holy Spirit, he mocked me when we were in a car. He hit me in the shoulder and said, "Tell me, prophet, when the light turns green." This was almost 2 years ago, though. Okay. Yeah, I think I, that's kind of the issue and the approach because I know that I would have had a harder time deconverting on an emotional level if all the atheists in my life had been assholes. Um, and it's why I work very hard not to be an asshole, but I am not going to be pushed around. I have enough sense of self worth that I'm not going to let people mock me necessarily for my unbelief. Um, normalizing deconversion and atheism is kind of where I'm at. So, hmm. Okay. So, yeah, I get it. Because I think, like, when I went to my atheist friends and talked to them about stuff, they were always very understanding. They were always very, like, open for a discussion. And I think that's the big thing. And that's why I try to be that for other people too. The problem is I'll get people like like last stream, like Daniel, who absolutely have no respect when I ask a question. Like if I ask a question, can you tell me who these atheist historians are? And then the guy immediately moves on to a completely different topic because he doesn't have an answer to that question. I have no problem with honest dialogue. There's been probably 5 or 6 theists over the years on this channel that I've had long, honest dialogues with, especially in the early days of the channel, when I wasn't so, I wasn't past 5K. It's like I had a lot of that. And I think that's why I continue to try to maintain this attitude of being open to discussion, but not being pushed around. So, yeah, I did notice that about your tattoos, Earl, that half of you is color and the other is like black and gray. Egyptian. Oh, yeah, that would be good. Yes, that's where we're trying to be here. I just don't get that. Okay. All right. See, I learn things. This is why I come here to learn things. All of you have different backgrounds than me. Hey, Trusted Ape. Greetings from California. Greetings from Michigan. When I finally admitted myself I was an atheist, I was happy as one that had just found God, but I had no one to talk to. Yes, that is the problem for a lot of us. That's kind of why I do this Deconversion Hangout. I want people to have a place. If they needed somebody to talk to, they can come and talk. Deconversion is hard enough, and when you're by yourself, or you seem like you're by yourself, it can be even more difficult. So, but yeah, I get this so much. Get this so much. It's just it's the reason why I do a lot of what I do with the live streaming. I think the live streaming has opened up the possibility of doing stuff like this where people have somebody else to talk to. I think that's so important. And the problem with atheism, even today, is that we're still a minority group, and so finding somebody that's of a similar vein and a similar ideology is very, very difficult. So I hear you, Katie. Definitely something that I'm glad that we do here. Hey, Master, good to see you. I'm glad you're happy to inform. I'm Fandiramania, that shit is the devil, so to speak. Okay. All right. All right. Well, but yeah, I'm just kind of I've debated with it many times. I'm one of those guys that watches my pennies pretty hard as a minimalist. So I have to have a really, really damn good reason to get a tattoo. Um, I suspect that like when my mom finally passes away, one to my parents might be in order. But I'd have to think about that. Hey, Gresh from Portland, Oregon. Greetings from Michigan, West Michigan, to be fair. I'm not in all the cities. I'm out in the middle of the boondocks in a small town. Cranky, isn't the size of the atheism a social stigma from censorship? Yes, and that's what we push back against here. The propaganda about atheism has always been really bad. It's always been like misinformation. It's always been like complete misinformation about what it is. It's always connected with something that people find despicable, and it's like that's why it's not a worldview. I mean, you can find atheists on all sides of an issue. So, I don't know. With the current power dynamic in politics, I think you might be right, Black. I think they're going to win for a while, but as always, these religious types that want to put stuff into the public forum always overplay their hand, and then other people who they get disgusted with that. But like the governor of Oklahoma, like he's like pushing back. These people have the right to put their Christianity in their small schools. Okay, well, when a Muslim mosque in Oklahoma City says they want to do their prayers in the public school, I want to see what your reaction is. And I think some people in a mosque in Oklahoma City should probably do that. Okay, they should force the issue. The Church of Satan should get involved at this point and say, okay, well, we want to be able to broadcast our stuff over your PA too. Oh, you have a problem with that? Okay. See, the Christians back when this country was founded understood the value of keeping religion out of it because they had watched what religion had done to Europe. Okay. And so they said, the best way to handle this is just no form of Christianity gets control. And it was Christians that kept stuff out of the public forum for that very reason. Unfortunately, we don't have smart Christians like that anymore. So, yeah, it's not like that. Yeah. Trying to make sense of this generation will not see death from Jesus. My boss knows I mentioned. He asked if I believe in God. I said no for the first time. Okay, good. That's actually a good moment. That's a really good moment for you, Triple E. Yeah, it's disturbing to me as a content creator because Black, I'm worried that they will be empowered to like criminalize criticism of their thing, and that's when I'm going to get really worried because as atheist content creators, are we going to be able to even do our work? And this is weaponizing their opinion against us. And I figure if a Christian isn't forced to be a Muslim, I shouldn't be forced to be either. So yeah, it's a tough one. I think, however, I don't know. The younger generations aren't as religious, and the older generations are, to be frank, dying off. And so I don't know. This is it's a long fight in the United States because of the Deep South is always going to be, they're going to be hyperly religious for a while because when I was down in Texas, I really didn't see like enlightenment values in the Deep South like they are elsewhere. So it's hard to get those things across to people. So when I came out as an atheist Jewish, I think I have lots of atheist Jewish friends. There are people that need the difference. I feel all at the universe and I believe in God. Yes, there are people that still don't get to that. I'm not sad now or anything. I just haven't told anyone anything because there's no one to tell. Well, you're here. It's a good step. My parents still don't quite get the difference between the and the universe is God. Yes, I think it's our ape tendency to be in awe of the universe, and then we want to personify it, and that's where gods come from. So we have to personify objects or forces, and and eventually you evolve that until you've got this omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent God, and then you kind of point out that doesn't logically work. Okay, like most of the arguments against God are directed to the Omni God. So, see, I'm very impulsive, which is weird for autistic people, but you have to possess a high level of fuck it, let's do the damn thing to get tattoos. People that overthink should not get them. That's probably maybe why I will never get one. I overthink everything. So, like I'm over. I just don't do that very often. I always have to think about every decision. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, it is weird for an autistic person to be impulsive, but I guess I could see it if like you're dealing with something and you would create like a mechanism to deal with something. So Satanists worship. Yeah, I know they do. They think that the Church of Satan worships the devil, but if you read their doctrinal statement, they don't really believe in a God at all. They're all atheists, really, and they just organize around the Church of Satan so they can get that tax exempt status like everybody else. The problem is, if you look at public opinion, it's shocking the percentage of people that just point blank will say people who believe in God are better people. I think that's probably the most successfully indoctrinated thing ever done in the history of indoctrination and propaganda. And that's why channels like mine are necessary, because we push back against that. The whole idea of you can't be moral if you don't have a God is like one of the biggest things I deal with on a constant basis. And it's like, I have morality, and my morality is probably better than yours because I actually have to think about every moral decision. I'm not just accepting um, something from a deity. I was when I talked with Godless Granny, she brought it up either it was pre-show or during the show, I can't remember, where she says that moral argument of you got to have a God is right at 3 to 5 year old level, and I don't think people get past that moral level. And I think though the atheists have a better chance because I'm not sitting there saying that mommy and daddy said so. I'm like looking at the moral discussion. The problem is the propaganda is so good. Like they've been doing it for so long and they get people so early with it. It's a childhood indoctrination issue because you'll have parents who don't even go to church tell their kids that they're glad that Christianity is part of the United States because it keeps us moral. And it's like, have you read the flipping Bible? Have you looked at the character of Yahweh? No. Uh, yeah, I mean, one religion is better than the other is frowned on, but still, they do it. Well, and there was a good chunk of them that were Christian, but like the thing about it is like Charlie Kirk makes the assertion they were all Bible believing Christians except for one, and I'm like, really? Because I know three of them were Catholic, and I know you don't consider Catholics to be Bible believing. So there's a lot of rhetoric and lies and propaganda on that side of the aisle, and it's hard to overcome, Katie. It's very difficult. It's why I think we need more content creators that talk about this more. It's like I'm not selfish here, and if somebody else is successful and has a bigger audience and gets that across, more power to them. I don't have this professional jealousy of other people's success, I guess. Um, so it's for me, when I look at the founding fathers, they were a bunch of Christians to be sure, but they were also very much about religious liberty and freedom. They were very much influenced by Voltaire on that subject. And because of that, they were the ones that were advocating let's keep religion the out of the state so that the state can be free of being weaponized for one particular type of Christianity or another. That was their arguments, Christian arguments. And the modern crop of Christian nationalists seems to have forgotten that, or they don't want it, or they willfully just disavow it. I still am waiting for a Christian to do like show me the verses of scripture that led to the various parts of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Do that. There's no Bill of Rights in the Bible, so it's like, where did that come from? And yeah, they just don't do that. Yeah, or some form of totalitarianism. Totalitarianism takes a lot of forms. Like, so when you try to control speech, but the problem is, then I know what the argument's going to be if the liberals push back on that. It'll be, well, but you guys have tried to make certain words illegal or frowned upon, or criticism frowned upon towards the LGBTQ. They'll throw those arguments that a lot of liberals have made about free speech right back in their face. Whether right or wrong, I'm not debating that issue. I just know what the tactic's going to be. They're going to just say, but you guys tried to make certain things in speech hate crimes and stuff like that. And so, yeah, they're going to take the laws that have been passed and turn them on their head. They've done it several times already. And that's why I've said, better to have dangerous free speech and deal with the consequences of that than try to restrict it. So, 10% is hippie dope. It could be I know there isn't anything. I think I'm not hippie dopey, but it's why I'm a 6.969 atheist on the Dawkins scale, because I leave the door open to say, hey, if you got your evidence, give it to me. I'll listen to it. I think it leaves me open to listening to the evidence. Plus, 6.969 is funny. So I moved on from a 6.9 atheist to a 6.969 atheist. Dinner for two to dinner for four. But I always leave the door open. I get what you're saying. The other problem is religion isn't dogma. It's become a business and very profitable. And yes, it's not just the emotional attachment. It's the emotional attachment to money. When I think back about how I made my money as a pastor, probably 10% of what I did was like useful to humanity, and the other 90% was just reinforcing religion, and I got paid for that. So it's an easy gig if you're a religious leader. I mean, I want you to think about the Pope for a minute. We just have a new Pope, but what a great gig. Okay. Um, and all those vows you take, celibacy, you can get around that. Like, there's, because the Vatican is so secretive and they're very good at it, you literally could have all kinds of stuff and the Pope could do whatever he wants. And he has a great, he's taken care of, he has health care, he doesn't have to do much except for show up for rituals and stuff and do them. He has to say a few words now and then. It's like, it's a great gig being a religious leader, and there's a lot of money in it. Okay. Now, that said, in the United States, a lot of churches are very small and struggling. So it's kind of like that. So there's nothing wrong with being an agnostic atheist. Yeah, there's a lot of presuppositions about superstition. Durante Lamar does a lot of stuff about superstition too, and he's really good on that because he disagrees that religion poisons everything. He thinks superstition poisons everything, and I just kind of point out that religion is codified and organized superstition. So there's that. I'm pretty sure the second occurrence of discrimination for the way I look this past Monday, the staff in the office were hateful to me. It hurt my feelings. Yeah, I know. I feel bad for that. So, but yeah, hang in there, Earl. We all love you, Earl. So understand that. And if anybody around here doesn't love you, you let me know. I will talk to them. So, hey, Bren. I'm very impulsive. I have to do things when the mood strikes me, and I stay trapped in my goblin cave forever. I'm extremely ritualistic, however, it's where my atheism shines. Yes. I don't know. I sometimes I don't feel impulsive. Impulsive's a hard one for me. So I have to think about it forever before I make changes. Let's see. Adams and Franklin were definitely deists. Jefferson was obviously a deist. And Washington was a Christian, but if you read his comments about Christianity, it's like he's more of a social Christian than anything else. A lot of his Christianity that everybody likes to point to afterwards is bullshit from 50 years later. I think Andrew Seidel in his book talks about that a lot of like Washington praying at Valley Forge is just as made it up as the cherry tree thing. So yeah, it's Washington was very critical of Christianity. So when I read him, I was like kind of surprised how critical he was. Experienced persecution at the hands of Rome or the Anglican Church. Yes, I think that's why they went religious freedom, and they knew Voltaire, and Voltaire praised the English for having religious tolerance compared to what he had in France with the Catholic Church. And so that was all buzzing through their heads when the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were being formed. And so when they wrote the First Amendment, it was like, okay, we're not going to have a state religion. Congress isn't allowed to do that. And if Congress isn't allowed to do it, then there's no laws to enforce by the executive branch or the judiciary branch to deal with. Of course, we're trying to muck that up right now, but yeah, they were very much, when I when I did my deep dive into that part of American history, one thing that struck me is how much Christians supported the First Amendment, like both parts, not just the last part where they were allowed to freely exercise their religion, right? But also the first part where they didn't want a state religion because they knew, if the Protestants get a hold of it, the Catholics suffer. If the Catholics get a hold of the government, the Protestants suffer. Like they all try to weaponize the government against religions that they disagree with. Okay. And so they saw that and they said, well, the best thing then is not have any religion in control and not have a state religion at all. And it's something that current crop of Christian nationalists have forgotten or willfully don't want to accept. So, yeah, I mean, the Protestants also ganged up on other Protestants. So, yes, they were very much like they saw that and they wanted to get away from it. So, and that's why it bothers me so much about Christian nationalism is it's like you guys don't even know your history all that well, do you? Yeah, he did try to nullify the Magna Carta. So, yes, he was what a great guy. Talk about a guy misnamed. Church, my entire extended family was pissed. My immediate family didn't get it immediately, but weren't as bad, thankfully. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, some people get this stuff early, and there are times that I wish I had been one of them. But yeah, I'm always happy when people have these kind of testimonies that they saw the religious bullshit early. I think that's great. 666 atheist. There you go. uh, yeah, perfectly reasonable. Religion comes from Vladimir Lenin as his mindset of private and public religion makes the most sense. Yeah, if he is real, see, that's the thing. Even if, let's say that God does exist, okay, and the deist God is true, is the deist God worthy of worship in any way, shape, or form? He just winds the universe up and walks away. Is that morally good or bad? It's like, I'm going to make something, but I'm not going to be responsible for it. Okay. All right. So, yeah, it's definitely now, the idea of having Christianity mixed with the state is it's a bad idea. It's always a bad idea. It's always been a bad idea. It's not the first time that it's happened, though, Ronald. If you look at the history of the United States, there's always been these moments where religion has gotten a stranglehold on the secular government, and then people get sick of it because it ends up being repressive because religious people can't help themselves and they try to force their religion on others, and people have a very, Americans are, as I've said before, a very contentious lot, and they will argue about anything and they will fight about anything. So the moment you start telling people what to do, we have a tendency to get really irate about that. So there's that. Uh, hey, thanks, Fred. Appreciate it. A $10 atheist. Okay. Well, we'll see what that's worth. Oh. Oh, holy crap! I haven't even thought of that. Get stoned and then read a chick tract. I do, do they come out better? Like, do they? Because I've read chick tracts. I used to use them long time ago when I was in my 20s, and I was a young minister. I used chick tracts a lot, um, and so because I love the format because it's Chick was actually right about something. He wrote in his comic book of why he did comics, and he says it's a very effective media to communicate things, and he's damn right about that. And so I used to use them, but now when I read them now, they just like, oh my god, what a waste of time. And so I'm wondering, I tried reading one drunk once, but I have a difficulty getting drunk. So it takes a lot of alcohol to get my 6'4", 275-pound body drunk, and generations of alcoholics, I think, have given me an alcohol resistance. So it's incredibly difficult to do. So, but I don't know, maybe high would be better. I guess I would want to see what that happens there. Yeah, I mean, see, Earl, you have friends. You have friends here. And to defend your managed democracy and Helldivers too with your friends. Okay, there you go, Michael. Fair enough. Fair enough. Uh, I cannot love a God who has killed literal babies and makes immortal souls just for fun to burn them in eternity. Yes, this is a problem. It is a problem. Hey, SJ. Um, yeah, there you go, Earl. It's that autistic defiance in all of us. I'm learning so much about autism and how we have a lot of defiant disorders too. But I think there's also, in general, just like F off, accept me for who I am, or go to hell kind of thing. So, and yeah, so as an elder god cranky, you have come up with the observation that it does take a couple of eternities to get souls to a nice crisp. Okay. I mean, I know you've had personal conversations with Yahweh personally, I'm sure, but because he's a younger god compared to the elder gods, so we'll make sure that gets known to everybody. Okay, cool. I try to keep it that way, Earl. I mean, I think the real key is not to take yourself so seriously sometimes, and this is one of the places where I don't want to take myself too seriously. Burnt offerings, human potato chips. Yes, I think that's what Cranky was getting at. So somebody should write a novel about God where people find him and then see some disgusting, terrible, and terrible that he eats people. I think somebody has done something like that, Black. I'm not sure, but I know that there have been a lot of I don't know. There's been a lot of parody of God and particularly Yahweh over the years from atheist channels. So something's got to be there. So Bible's obvious fantasy. I could never understand belief. And I grew up and understood childhood and social indoctrination. Always glad to have avoided that. Yes, you should be. Um, I think it's one of the things when I talk deconversion, it's one of the things that people actually are dealing with more than anything is the thing about childhood indoctrination is kids aren't rational, so what you're trying to do is influence their feelings. You don't want to, it's like the most dangerous one is like you don't want to burn in hell, so you need to accept our doctrine, or you don't feel like you have any friends. If you have a kid that doesn't feel like they have friends, like me, when I was growing up, it was like, well, you always have a friend in Jesus. It's the emotional attachment indoctrination that gets done probably most with kids. It's a real rah-rah session for Jesus kind of thing. Worship, hate, believe. Okay. Fair point, Michael. Uh, you never hear, I know, Rastafarian. Yeah, just no deconstruction stories from that. It's one of the most difficult religions to get deconstruction from, I think. I'm sorry, I think. Gathering around like, thanks for all the great chat. Okay. Yeah, go feed all the people that need food there. All your friends. Uh, Never I gave a chance for God to prove that he exists by giving me a good grade at school, but nothing happened. So it's like, so there's nothing at all. There you go. That's a perfectly valid test, by the way. Um, Although some would argue not. I think the Protestant churches tend to have more democratic forms of church governance, and that's why they lend itself well to democracy. The Catholics tried to squelch those values originally. Yes, they did. Um, there were 3 Catholics that signed the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, I believe, but they were exceptions rather than the rules. So yes, I hear what you're saying. Contentious, fight me. See, that's what I'm talking about. Somebody, I don't know if it's you or somebody else, talked about some disorder, like defiant disorder, being attached to autism. Like, I don't believe that. I'm going to fight about that. And then I went and looked it up and started deep diving it and studying it. I'm like, holy shit, that's probably true. uh, Absolutely. I think that part has been argued by more than I think the idea of like religion should be a private affair and not show up in society or the state. Yeah, absolutely. It'd be nice if people did that. Um, I wouldn't have problems with religious people if they didn't try to force me to follow their ethics. Like I have a hard time following Christian ethics when I know that the Christian Bible endorses slavery, and if somebody doesn't believe the right way, you know your God could order you to kill them. So that's not a really good moral way of thinking to me, and I don't want that enforced upon me. If they kept those private beliefs to themselves, or it was just part of debate in the public forum without any state enforcing, it really is kind of the idea of separation of church and state in more of a concrete form, I suppose. Watching Thief in the Night is stoned as a blast too. So it's better to read Chick tracts and watch Thief in the Night while you're stoned. We have official word, so we'll have to add that to the dogma. Um, Parents faded to and arguing on X. They're not interested in democracy anymore. They were required to make it. Yeah, I do worry you might be right there, Ronald. The disturbing thing to me when I was teaching social studies in Texas, and I'm not sure if it's true in every part of the United States, but Texas has this overarching like belief in Christianity that colors everything they do. You have to like live in the deep South to see it. And that's why when I go to content creators like Aaron Ra and he talks about this, I now very much believe him because I think Genetically Modified Skeptic had something on this too, where he talked about his experience going to deal with some legislation in the Texas legislature. It's like they're not interested in democracy. They're interested in forcing their opinion on X. And I think that's the problem. The idea of having a democratic value, like you see this in Trump too. He doesn't feel he represents all American people. He only represents the people that voted for him. And even then that's sketchy. So it's it's something that's lost. But when I was teaching my kids, like they didn't know a lot of times the founding principles of how the government was founded, and these are ninth graders. Like you know, you can teach that stuff in middle school and have it be understood and not be indoctrinative about it. They had no idea. They all thought that they were all Christians with Christian values, and it's like very few were outside that vein. So I can see it in the deep South where that is very, very true. So it's what keeps religion alive in the United States is the southern states. So sloshed. Okay. That's a great word. I like sloshed. Mm. So you tried to talk to Yahweh, but he's too much of a narcissist, and you can't have a conversation with him because you can't get a word in edgewise. Okay, that's a fair assessment, Cranky. I'll take that. I'll take that. I mean, I figured you were there because you are an elder god, and Yahweh's kind of a new kid on the block. So you know, so he's a young, pretentious, narcissistic asshole. Okay, fair enough. I'll buy that. Large order crispy souls. Yeah, you always take yourself, then you're so damn good. Yeah, let's see. The reason I've been fired so many times is because I have such a rigid idea of how dentistry should be done, and I'm not afraid to confront anyone and tell them that they're doing it wrong. Okay, there you go. That defiance. Yeah, I do the same thing at my work because I like, why are you doing it that way? Because that causes this problem. Yeah. But then there's also my introverted self that doesn't give a damn. So I don't believe anymore. Puff, take that. Okay. Yes, the state is above religion, basically. I don't know. I think you have to have I don't disagree with the second line of the First Amendment of letting people follow whatever not having allowing the state to infringe with religion either, because I think that becomes a dangerous thing because then you can start creating the state as a religion. We've seen that a couple of times in history, and then it starts to, as a religion, crush other religions. I'd much rather have that be an open dialogue because I think then you have a better chance of changing somebody's mind. Snoop Dogg went in and changed his name to Snoop Lion, then quickly switched back to normal. I remember seeing that a few years ago. I don't think deconstruction was involved. Yeah, probably something else. Yeah. Yeah, I love the sinner, hate the sin, form of belief. Don't act on your trigger, but it still be big bothers me too. Yes. Where are you at, Black? I mean, what language do you do? Um, I know a lot of English version as a former pastor. I've always, if you want like an accurate translation, the New American Standard Bible is probably the better one. Although they've done a few since that I haven't had a chance to look at. But and the pages are golden too. Now I only have to use my marker for text and mark every bad thing in it. So what's left? They're pretty thin though. Okay, yeah, that's see, if you're going to mark up a Bible, you really have to get the good thick paper so that it doesn't bleed through. So say that you're contrarian, but I definitely have a problem with authority when they show themselves to be incompetent. Yes, there you go. That's defiance. That's a form of defiance, Earl. It is. Even being the smartest person in the room is antithetical to continuing employment. You too, huh? That's why I left teaching. Okay. Um, and I'm having trouble going back. Like I could here in Michigan, I could easily just go through the credentialing process again. And they have an online, like statewide school that I could teach in. And I'm not sure how difficult it would be, but maybe in 3 months I could do it again. But it's like I have a real problem with the American education system, aside from the fact that religious people are trying to take it over. But it's like it's 100 years old, and we're still using 100+ year old system. And there's just you know taking kids to a building. And the reason why parents push back, like having at home school, with the state, is because they want the free babysitting services so they can go to work. It's like there's a whole part of the educational system that now that I've seen behind the curtain that's just inherently part of it. And I've been on a couple school boards too. It's like it's frustrating because we're using very antiquated ideas about education and they're still being used. And that's my biggest problem with going back into teaching. So, because I wanted to do things differently, but they wouldn't let me. So, relationship between Christianity and political theory, but it's hard to have a convo with people about this without people getting angry and defensive. You are correct. That's my frustration too, because as a guy with a poli sci degree, I kind of look at things differently because I can see the interconnected political connections and stuff with everything else. And like, a lot of people are against lobbyists, but I ask the question, well, how else would you do it? Are you going to let every petitioner go to see the president or senators or whatever? Or would it be better to have somebody who's a representative of a large group of people go and talk to them? I'm just not sure how you do petitioners to government officials without having lobbyists. I just don't know how you do it. So yeah, there's that. You're in Bulgaria? Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's a new one for the channel, Black. Welcome. I've got Russians, I've got Germans, UK, Australians for sure. I got a bunch of Australians. They love me. I don't know why. I keep waiting for somebody from New Zealand. Because if I ever really want to get away from it all, that's the place to go, I hear. So, yeah, the education system sucks. It's not just the religious aspects of it; it's how it's organized. It's a typical government bureaucracy system from 150 years ago that just has not gone away. Okay, so yeah, that's my problem with it. It's like it's not even the fact that they're trying to put religion in schools that's a problem. That's one problem among many. But it's just like moving kids from class to class and all that stuff. Like if you try to be an innovative teacher and say, okay, let's use some online stuff to do the teaching, and then test the kids. And why do we need, there's even a part of me that says, if they do the work, why can't I let them move on to the next class? It's like I see the advantage in some of the homeschooling, particularly with brighter kids, because a bright kid in a homeschool or a accelerated program, they can get done with all the things you want them to learn by noon. So let them go home. It's like but Americans push back against it because it's great babysitting for why they go to work. So yeah, it really is designed to create factory workers. And we don't have that kind of we don't have that kind of work anymore. And I don't know why we'd want it back either. That's been my pushback about the whole thing. It's like, why do we want these factory jobs in the first place? They're shit. Yeah. It's like, let somebody else do the shit jobs. I don't know, that wants to do them, Yeah. Requires best wishes. Yes. And bother us until now. They don't force Christianity and Islam in the schools. Yes, that's a problem. Yeah, it's the transparency. I agree with you, Michael. It's not lobbyists. It's like if you meet with a lobbyist, that conversation should be public. I absolutely agree. It should be a public conversation that the public can access later. Like you should record the conversation and have it accessible by people. So I just don't know how you do a system where you petition the government for something with such a, like we have, 360 million people in the United States. How the hell would the government hear from everybody? It's like, there's just no way to do that. So lobbyists become a necessary evil in a sense. So yeah. I haven't seen our other Southern Belle though, Earl. All these Southern Belles. I'm beginning to agree with that. I think, when I was on the school board, the biggest resistance I got was putting an online variation and connected with our school. And I wasn't the only one pushing for this. This is like 3 or 4 other board members. And the resistance I got was from the superintendent and every administrator. They did not want that because they knew that then their job would be in jeopardy. Okay, because you can do an internet school at a far less cost than maintaining a building. I mean, the 2 biggest expenses in a public school are staff is the biggest expense, but the other one is maintaining buildings and facilities. And if you don't have to do that as much because you can use home stuff, yeah, it's like, it's that. It really is that. English from the Cartoon Network, and then help me, whereas I was saying the wrong way. All right, there you go. Instead of sheeps. Yeah, you don't need to put the S on to get the plural. English is bad like that. It's full of shit. I know it's hard because I know people are going to come here with contentious issues, and I'd rather have a discussion about the contentious issue than a fight about it, because I'm far more interested in light than heat. And I don't like to dissolve friendships simply because I have a disagreement either. For the bunnies, Cranky. All right. See, are you? I have to ask, Cranky Elder God. As an Elder God, are you coming to accept Fangs as one of the newest demigods on the block? Do you like him, or her, or do you like Fangs? Hell's bells. Maybe Earl thinks so. Oh, yeah, I agree that like if you're going to have a lobbyist organization, everything you should do should be like publicly accessible. There shouldn't be any private deals behind the door, but I don't know if we can ever get rid of that. Oh, yeah, I just don't. I don't know. I've had this discussion with many school administrators about how school works and why we couldn't inject like an online component, like have the kids come to the school for the lectures and maybe like a hands-on learning experience, and then the second half of the day send them home with their homework. Because I spent an inordinate amount of time standing over kids making them do their homework. And it's like, okay, if you want to fail the class, my attitude was, okay, fail the class then for not doing your homework, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I've had this argument many times with school administrators. It's not just the religious stuff creeping into schools. It's the nature of the way education is done that just pisses me off now. There's technology could make things so much easier, and they fight it every check and turn. So yeah, teaching kids to think critically. I tried to do that. Um, they say that they want to do that. Like schools will say they want to do that, but when I looked at how they want to teach critical thinking, they still want you to come back to the conclusion they already have. And it's like there's if a kid disagrees with the commonly held conclusion, the teacher pushed back on that because they have to get it. This is particularly bad in like Texas where you have the educational standards because they're teaching these educational standards. So the kid has to know what the educational standard says and they can't depart from it. Um, really, they have to know it. If you have a different opinion, like in some things in social studies were really bad, like Aron Ra goes on about, Texas and the South with its, education about evolution and stuff. I would say I would have a lot of social sciences push back too, because a lot of the social sciences, like in Texas, were very much like, yeah, you're leaving a bunch of stuff out. Okay, that sort of thing. Hey, Dave, good to see you. How's everything at Captive Deaths these days? I catch you guys whenever I can. Fangs is Cool's little known fact. Fangs was conceived when Lisa the Rainbow's giraffe showed up, what she could really do with that long neck. Really? Really? Okay. Are we getting this straight from somebody who observed this? Because I'm just one of the prophets of Fangs, and Earl is kind of a prophetess through art, and several others have taken up the mantle, of being monks and whatever. But so that's how Fangs was conceived when we found out what else Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe could do with her neck. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Oh. Yeah, that's what I'm saying here. Oh. Yeah, pretty much. Deconverted Misfits hang out here. Um, you're welcome, B.S. Lewis, because you're a deconverted misfit, as I recall. Yeah, evolution in the War of Northern Aggression. Yeah, yeah. I was surprised in the South how soft. Like, I think there is a middle ground when talking about the war between the states, so to speak, because there's also a lot of people in the South who just simply believe that they had their own country and they were just leaving it. But there was definitely a soft soaping of like racial issues and slavery and all that stuff in the South too. And they were definitely, when I was there, they were fighting against that too. Like critical race theory was definitely being pushed back against and being part of the TEKS, the Texas Educational Standards. And so it was like, yeah, I had a lot of problems with that too. It's like, what is the harm of teaching this? You don't have to accept it. You can even reject it. Okay, but they don't have that mentality in Texas. Like if they teach it, it has to be like the truth. And their definition of what the truth is very different. So yeah, Finland does that. A lot of European schools have gotten to that point, and it's because the religious effects are diminished quite a bit. So it's much more about rationality and thinking. And I would love to see that. Yeah, okay. Yeah. What's the matter, Earl? This whole thing what Cranky said is just causing your brain to go. Yeah, more hen and more hair apparently too. HARE. That Captain. I'm so glad you got the toaster emoji. I was so disappointed. Like when you were originally doing the toaster guy, and I like run to YouTube to find a toast emoji. I'm like, they gotta have a toast emoji. Like they don't have one, and I was so mad about that. And the fact that you came up with one, I am so happy with that. Friends, no drama. Yes, talk real funny down here. I told you. Oh, yeah. It was technology is weird in school here in America because they want to utilize it, but they also want to control it. And I was the odd duck in the room saying, I'm sorry, I think the technology genie is out of the bottle, and the idea of controlling kids is nearly impossible. They all have their own personal devices. And so it's like in high school in particular, it was like, how do you control that? Well, you don't let them have it. You make them leave their phone at the door. And it's like, I didn't want to do that. If I said something, I wanted the kid to have the ability to go to Google and look it up and see if I was being truthful. I didn't have a problem with them correcting me. I think the biggest issue is the distractions. So, lost cause theory, yes, that's still very much alive and well in the TEKS. When I read, like, they still teach that aspect of it, but they also allow the counter teaching of it. But it's like the very fact that you put that in there kind of is bad. Oh, and they can't use technology at all. Oh yeah, I also think there's pushback against technology because of some of the teachers being older. So there's that. And create a Discord server, but in my country, old people at that age can't even use phones with buttons. Okay. Oh, fire equals fire extinguisher. Yeah. So, but yeah. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't mind them reading books or stuff. I encouraged all that. It was just using different information sources is definitely something I wanted, but it was like it's it becomes difficult to talk about how we're doing education when a new technological element gets introduced. And there's just constant pushback. It was difficult. And my former religious background and my thoughts on indoctrination were like, yeah, but you're only presenting one side of that discussion. Why are we only presenting one side of that discussion? And that came into play. They're just, I don't know, it's a bad one. Which she can do it because she's not Bulgarian. All right. Well, folks, I do have to run. It's been a great stream, though. We've had some good discussions, but I do have to run. I have to get ready for work. Today is my Friday night, so to speak. So, got one more day, and then I'll have a couple nights off. We will be streaming Saturday. I think I'm up to 7 super chats, so the hat reveal is still 3 away, and then also I've decided that I will post the link to the StreamYard if I reach like 20 super chats in a week. I will do that um, because I want to open that possibility up. But I also, it's stressful for me, so I want to get paid for it. So, so there's that. But yeah, so but I do have to go. I do have to get ready for work, and I'm part of that is kind of chilling out after a stream a little bit. So thank you everybody for stopping by. Thanks for the super chats and all of you who donated today. I appreciate you all of you that came by. Some of you I've seen for the first time or second time. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate that. Appreciate all of you. May all glory to Fangs, our glorious demigod mascot. May your teeth always be pointy so you can remove the religious corruption from your vegetables and, nom nom and all that. And may all of you understand him better and better as time goes by. But thanks for stopping by. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around, and so you want to take all your time, money, and opportunities and use them on yourself, people you love and care for, to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do that. And don't waste it on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And yes, as Evan points out, may Fangs nibble on your heart, and make sure you hit all the like buttons before you leave. I appreciate it. So there's that. But thanks, everybody. I appreciate all of you. And, as always, thanks for stopping by, guys. And I will catch you all next time on Saturday. We'll see you then.